Chapter 23, Willie Kamm. Now, Mr. Willie Kamm, you don't know who I am, but that needed it to make a bit of diff to you. For I'm just a common fan, though I do the best I can, and I always root for everything you do. I like to see you play in the easy, graceful way, which doesn't seem to bother you at all. If a batter pops up a fly way up high into the sky, it's a cinch that batter's out, and that is all. When you swing that ashen stick very hard and very quick, and the ball lands in the bleachers for a tally, or when it runs, it's hit and run, right there begins the fun. For I know it's going to start a winning rally. Now it's no make-believe that we hate to see you leave, for we'll miss you, yes, we'll miss you every day. For we like you, Willie boy, and it takes away our joy, just to think that we'll no longer see you play. It's hard to say goodbye, and I feel as though I'll cry. Notwithstanding, and with the best of friends must part. So wherever you do play in that easy, graceful way, you will always have a warm place in my heart. Just an ordinary fan, 4 years old. I played third base for the White Sox for 9 years, led the league in fielding time, and hit a solid 280 or 290. Hardly ever missed a game, and then bang, I was traded to Cleveland. You know, nobody from the White Sox ever notified me that I'd been traded. Nobody. 9 years with the club, I read it in the newspapers. Actually, a telephone operator was really the one who told me. She'd been listening in, I presume about a week before the trade. The phone rang one night, and it's the operator. I don't know her from the man in the moon. You know something, and you're going to be traded to Cleveland, she says. Oh, yeah? I said, what's the difference? I thought she was just some nut. A couple of days later, she calls again. It's getting closer and closer, she says. And then on Saturday night, the phone rings again. The deal went through, she says. You're traded to Cleveland. And I got up the next morning and got the Sunday papers and read where, sure enough, I'd been traded to Cleveland for Lou Fonseca, my old buddy. What am I supposed to do now, I wondered. It has to be official. It's the papers. There was still no word from the ball club, so instead of going to the ballpark at the usual time, I waited until the game had started and then went out. Nobody was in the clubhouse then, see. I should have said goodbye to everyone, but somehow I don't know. I just didn't want to see anybody. 9 years there and contented and all, doing a good job, I thought. I just couldn't understand why. I'd been traded. After I got all my baseball duds packed, I went to the club office to see transportation. All they could say to me was, yeah, you've been traded. That's all. What the heck? It was all worth it anyway. I was always nuts about baseball. I couldn't play enough. I was always that way far back as I can remember. There were 3 cemeteries near our house when I was a kid, and I remember throwing balls or stones up against the walls of those cemeteries for hours after hours. All by myself, hour after hour. When I got bigger, I had a paper route, and as soon as I threw my last paper, I hustled over to Golden Gate Park, where there were always lots of kids playing ball. Before long, I got to playing semi-pro around San Francisco here. There was an old gentleman named Spike Hennessy. He took a liking to me, rough and ready man, very poor. He just barely existed, but he devoted his whole life to kids. He was a trainer just 1 year with the Sacramento Club, and that year he talked them in signing me. That was 1918. I just turned 18 years old. The Sacramento Club released me after a month, and then Mr. Hennessy got me a job up in Oregon in the Shipyard League. Worked in the shipyards during the week and played ball on the weekends. After that, I came back home and worked at the Union Iron Works, where they had a company called the Timekeepers. From there, the San Francisco Seals signed me up. The Pacific Coast League was in 1919. In the beginning, I was a real shy, bashful kid. In fact, when the Seals first signed me, Charlie Graham, the manager, said to me, "You're going to be our regular third baseman." "Oh, no," I said. "I'm not that good. I just hope that when we get to spring training, I'll be good enough to you'll farm me out for a couple of years." Charlie strung along with me, though. Geez, was I ever lousy that first year. Must have made 40 million errors. Well, I was only a kid, 19 years old, skinny, couldn't have weighed over 140. Later on, I had my tonsils out, and then I started to put some weight on. But that first year was just a gangling, awkward kid. Still, Charlie Graham stuck with me, and I'm thankful to him for it. Of course, Mom and Pop, they didn't know what to make of all this. They were old-fashioned German people. They didn't know too much baseball. They didn't know baseball from Shame's ball. First game they ever saw, they were dumbfounded. What's going on? Mom got to be quite a rabid fan, though. She never really understood the game, but that never stopped her. Not one bit. She had lots of life, and zip and boy, she'd root like nobody's business. Everything I did was sensational as far as she was concerned. My father, on the other hand, as far as he was concerned, I never got a hit. If I got a single from Mother would scream, my mom would scream, "Willie's hit a triple," and Pop would say, "Ack, the guy should have caught it." That's just the way he was. All this didn't make any difference to him. Or it did. He wouldn't let on. He was a little bitty fellow, less than 5 feet tall, and an old-fashioned German father. If you had a turkey or for Sunday dinner, he would ask, "How's the turkey, Pop?" Turkey's turkey." He was that way with everything. You know, turkey's supposed to be what's supposed to be. That's all. My mother, she was an enthusiastic one. She got a kick out of everything. My mom picked up the game pretty well because she used to got fairly regular. But Pop, he only went in about once a week or so. Mom went to the ballpark so much she used to hear a lot of stories about me. She'd listen to the folks around her, you know. When I first started with the San Francisco Seals, she went out one day and 2 guys were sitting in the back of her. "Yeah, that shiny kid out there throwing the ball," one of them says. "Yeah, that's Willie Kamm." Well, my mother's all ears because she'd never seen anything like a ballpark this big before, with so many people in it, and here they are talking about her son. So the guy continues, "Well, that's Willie Kamm. They're going to try and make a ball player out of him." "Is that so?" the other guy says. "How come?" "Oh," says the first guy, "his father is a millionaire, owns half of Market Street, you know, the Kamm's building there, and on they went, owns this and owns that." When I got at home that night, my mother looked at me and said, "Willie, I don't think you should go to that place anymore. The people there, they talk very peculiar." I played third base with the San Francisco club for 4 years on the second year, or when I had my tonsils out. And that winter, I put on a good 20 or 25 pounds. The next season, I felt strong, and my batting average went up in 50 points. That would be 1921. In 1922, I went up another 50 points, or about 340. That's when the White Sox bought me for $100,000. I was only 22 years old then, more than 40 years ago, but I still remember that day like it was yesterday. It was June of 1922. The San Francisco club made a trip to Los Angeles that week, but I had a bad Charlie horse, so they decided to leave me home to rest up. I didn't have anything in particular to do that evening, so I thought I might as well take a little walk and get some fresh air. I'm walking up Market Street at Powell when suddenly I hear the newsboy yelling, "Willie Kamm sold to White Sox for $100,000! Willie Kamm sold to White Sox for $100,000! So I stopped dead in my tracks. What are they saying? Can this be true? Me? I walk over to get one of the papers, and one of the kids look at me and shouts, "Hey, there he is! It's Willie Kamm! Hey, it's Willie Kamm!" Well, I don't know what got into me, but I panicked completely. I started running as fast as I could, go up Market Street, Charlie Horse, and all that with that pack of newsboys at my heels. Hey, it's Willie Kamm! Hey, it's Willie Kamm! Oh, Lord, I ran up 2 blocks and around the corners and quick ducked in a theater. And there I sat, painting and sweating. I must have sat there for hours. The longer I sat there, thought about it, the more frightened I got. It can't be true. I'm not that good. But suppose it is true. It must be. What'll I do? I won't go. I'm no big league player. I won't go. That's all. I don't know how long I sat there. Finally, I looked up at the movie. I'd seen the exact same picture the night before and hadn't even realized it. Well, then all the hullabaloo started. Record price for a ball player, $100,000 beauty, all that. And of course I went. I always forced myself to do things. Here's the original check by the Chicago White Sox. Gave me it years later. $1,000 for me. What do you think of that? You know, I don't even remember a game where I wasn't nervous before it began. Man, I won $100,000. But it seemed like once the first pitch went in, my mind would go completely on the game. I'd lose my nervousness, but never left me before a game, not in all the years I played. Yes, you can hear the fans when they yell something to you, or more likely at you, especially if you're playing third base. You hear them all the time. After all, the box seats are only a few feet away. At least they used to be in the ballparks we played in. But a ball player never lets it bother him. Never bothered me anyway. It just rolls right off your back like a water off a duck. The worst day I ever had raised was one day in Chicago, though then we were playing the New York Yankees, 1923, and there had just been all this publicity about the White Sox paying $100,000 for me. Excuse me, I'm sorry. I was so terrible that day, it was unbelievable. If there was a man on third, I'd struck out. And if there was a man on first, I hit into a double play. I did that and worse all day long. Finally, the last time I was up, they walked the man ahead of me to get it to me. And on the first ball pitched, I hit into another double play. Well, there must have been about 25,000 people there that day, and I think about 24,999 of them stood up as I walked back to the dugout and told me what a bum I was and that I could go right back to California. Of course, you try to be nonchalant about it. You want to hurry up and get back inside the dugout in the worst way. But you don't want to show them that, so you got to take your time, yet still hurry, see? Oh, it's a hell of a feeling. I remember one day, too, we were playing the Cleveland Indians, a doubleheader at Chicago. Well, a guy in the third base boxes started it on me early in the first game. He had a foghorn for a voice. You bum, why don't you go back to California? You never could play ball and you're getting worse. And you're all thumbs. You never hit in the clutch. How stupid can you get? What a fathead. He was particularly right on top of me in that small park. And with that below of his, I heard every word loud and clear. He kept it up all during the first game and was still going strong well into the second. And it wasn't that he'd let loose a blast once in a while. This guy kept screaming without a stop. He'd hardly stop to take a breath. George Moriarty, he was an old infielder for the Detroit Tigers, umpired at third base about the middle of the second game. He says, Lord, how long can you keep this up? Well, about the sixth inning of the second game, he finally started losing his steam. His voice got hoarser and hoarser, and pretty soon I almost had to strain to catch the words. I'm watching him out of the corner of my eye. In the top of the eighth inning, he finally gets up and makes his way through the stands towards the exit behind home plate. By this time, he can hardly even whisper anymore. Thank God, I said to myself. But just as he gets to the exit, he turns around one last time and bellows louder than he had all day long. You punk, you! He had lungs, that guy. But no, as far as I was concerned, the fans never did bother me very much. Hardly heard them.